Let's move on tonight to our stories. High cost of securing a certification and inadequate extension officers are just but a few of the numerous challenges facing exporters for agri produce here in Ghana. According to the Director of Product Development at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Erasmus Ishan, the situation has affected the quality of commodities meant for the international market.
Export of agricultural products to the European market is set to have increased by almost 18%, despite a ban on some produce from Ghana last year. As part of measures to further improve on the quality of Ghana's produce, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, GEPA, in collaboration with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, have begun the certification of products before they are exported. The cost of acquiring world standard certification and the availability of agric extension officers are just but a few of several challenges hindering the growth of the sector. Director of Product Development at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority is Erasmus Ishan.
Every exporter, especially agriculture exporting companies, to have is the global gap certificate. It's a process that you go through and you are certified. That is a market-driven certification. Yes, all the big importers are looking for companies that have this certificate. It comes with costs, and we are supporting some of the farmers to be able to be successfully certified.
But they are aware of this certification?
They are aware. But the constraint here is the cost, especially the small-scale farmers. It's a cost. It has an initial cost, and it has renewal costs.
Ahead of this year's Farmers' Day celebration, he urged farmers to work towards improving on their produce to meet international standards.
The market demand for Ghana produce, so the potentials are there to grow our markets in these various value chains. So my advice to them is that they should continuously work with Ghana Export Promotion Authority, the Ministry of Agri, and all the agencies in the value chain for agriculture exports, so that we can get a very good figures coming.
Henceforth, farmers who want to export their produce must be registered with the Ghana Export Promotion Authority or join any of the horticultural exporting groups in the country. Eben Sabute's report for Joy Business.
Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority has reiterated its commitment to improving aviation safety and standards in the country as it marks the 74th International Civil Aviation Organization Day. According to the Director General, this is in line with the International Civil Aviation Organization's No Country Left Behind initiative, which seeks to ensure member states maintain high safety and security standards in air transportation. There's more in this report.
Globally, the International Civil Aviation Day is held to recognize the social, economic and developmental benefits of aviation and international air travel, as well as commemorate the International Civil Aviation Organization's role in safety, efficiency and uniformity in aviation globally. As members of the International Civil Aviation Organization, Ghana marked the day with a flag raising ceremony. Director General of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Engineer Simon Alute, stressed Ghana's commitment to aviation safety.
Ghana continues to provide technical support to a number of states in the sub-region towards the enhancement of aviation safety oversight. Various government safety inspector courses have been organized at this academy with participation from several states. And we've had several air traffic controllers from Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Gambia, Sao Tome, and Asekna, to name a few, who have been trained at this academy. Ghana's aviation industry has benefited tremendously from the support of ICAO, which ensures strict compliance with industry safety and security standards by all member states.
Minister for Aviation Kofi Adda reiterated government's commitment to make the aviation sector a viable one.
The development of the Maintenance, Repairs and Overhaul Facility, MRO, the setting up of a pilot training academy, the establishment of a cargo village are all initiatives that we are embarking on. These have been the public domain. We're hoping that we can do the pilot training in the airport at Ho, the MRO, the airport in Tamale, as well as the cargo village. We're intending to undertake technicians training to account for and make up for the difference in pilots nationwide, rather globally, which is said to be about 5,000 deficit.
Chief Justice Sophia Kufuor was, however, honored for being the longest-serving board chair of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. In a speech, she stressed on the need to maintain safety standards to attract investments.
As an investment-hungry, developing country, Ghana will need a safe, secure, and efficient aviation industry as it quests to attract international capital and resources to support our efforts to boost economic growth, jobs, and living standards. This will require that GCA plays its role as a regulator in a way that attracts not only investors, but also ensures that they play by the rules, serve passengers well, and contribute positively to the cause of aviation in particular and national development in general.
The theme for this year's International Civil Aviation Organization celebration was working together to ensure no country is left behind. Sheila Tamaklu for Joy Business.
Well, meanwhile, Minister of Aviation Kofi Adda says Ghanaians will maintain majority share in the home-based Carryout. This follows the signing of an MOU with Ethiopian Airlines, a strategic partner for the carrier.
Essentially speaking, Ghana is going to be majority shareholder, not the state. 10% of golden shares will be reserved for the state of Ghana. The rest of the majority shares would be with Ghanaian investors. Ethiopia is coming in as a minority shareholder. They'll be contributing aircraft as well as management services because they are good at that and they've done it for a long time. And we have been out of it for so long. It's about time for us to build our capacity and come back up to the level where we can take over from them. But generally speaking, they're going to be minority shareholders on what we are negotiating on.
Okay, so when you say minority shareholders, what percentage are we looking at?
We're looking at something below 50%, way below 50%. All depends on what they bring to the table in terms of aircraft, in terms of funding, in terms of equity and all of that. What we signed was the Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. We're going to go on further to the shareholders agreement. So those are the details we're working on. We hope that we can conclude that very soon.
All right, you're watching Business Live. We are going to take a look at the country's agri sector in the next half of this program. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Business Live, and if you're just joining us tonight, we want to have a discussion ahead of the Farmers' Day celebration, which is tomorrow. But although the agricultural sector is said to have improved in terms of performance over the years, its contribution to GDP is said to be on the decline. Currently, the sector contributes only 21% of GDP as compared to services, which holds 46%. Tonight, I have assembled my abled colleagues. I may say, maybe I should call you my learned colleagues from the business units of the multimedia group and to discuss the agricultural sector. And Philip Namfuri and Charles Hayete joins me. Welcome, guys, to Business Live.
Pleasure having you.
Happy Farmers' Day in advance.
Same to you. Are we farmers?
No, but we are going on a holiday, so obviously we have to. Anyway. All right, let me start with you, Charles. You have been following the agri sector for some time now. What have you identified? How is the sector performing?
Well, you see, we do know that the agri sector has grown marginally over the past few years, from 0.6% now to about 7% in the excesses. We do know that we have the plenty for food and jobs. We do know we're having these issues about the seed provision for farmers and whatnot. But whenever we do engage the civil society organizations, and get to find from them their concerns, it tends to mean they're not feeling these statistics.
So it means that the statistics are just
numbers,
on paper, but the reality on the ground.
Absolutely. They're not on, it's just not a situational, thing that they could relate to. We're talking about the higher cost of doing business in the country. We're talking of post-harvest losses. We're talking of them not having a ready market to, have their goods, sold to the advance of society. So for farmers, yes, we're doing well on paper, but when it comes to the ground, when it comes to the realities, they just don't see anything happening.
I'm glad you mentioned cost. I want to bring in Philip briefly. Philip, it appears that one of the issues affecting the agri sector is financing. Why are the banks not lending to people in the agricultural sector?
Sandra, there's a multiplicity of issues as to why banks are not lending, and I want to skew this to universal banks because I was able to get information on that. When I did the research, I saw that about only 3.9% of the loans that go out to the sector or to the economy, only 3.9% is given to the agricultural sector. When you do the math, that translates to about 1.5 billion Ghana cedis.
Very small.
Very small, as compared to something like services, commerce and finance, transport and communication, which are taking in excess of 10 billion Ghana cedis. So you realize that, okay, there's a problem. But if you look on the farmer side, you realize that, okay, they have certain intricacies when it comes to their operations and the long-term nature of farming, the staging periods of farming and stuff. Then we have the bankers on the other side who are looking for quick turnovers because of the structure of our deposits in the country. They are short-term in nature. So if I take Charles's money, I take your money, I can't give it to a farmer who's going to use it for 2 or 3 years. There's
especially when we depend solely on rain-fed agriculture in Ghana.
There's a mismatch there between the short-term nature of the deposits and the long-term nature of this. So you realize that, yes, there are a lot of financial institutions in the country. Some are making headway when it comes to lending to the agricultural sector, but there still is a gap that needs to be filled. And apart from the universal banks, we look at the rural banks also. They are in the hinterlands, so they are also doing some good work. But data on their specificities when it comes to lending to the sector was difficult to come by. But I would want to assume that for the fact that they're in that area, most of the people there are farmers and are engaged in small businesses when it comes to rural areas.
All right, Charles.
I feel it even gives out this whole perception that the agri sector doesn't attract much investors. If we could use that analogy, because even recently we do know, yes, Phil, that the Chinese have a stake about 90% in the country's fisheries industry. Just 90% that's the Chinese, based on the grants and everything that they often do give us. But when it comes to the crops, when it comes to the farmers, when it comes to the land, investors are just not interested. Private sector
and a lot
is
of
just
factors,
not interested,
like
which is so disturbing.
Because of the long term and all that. But I was coming to, agri is not always about crops. When you're talking about the fishery sector, the livestock, you have done quite a number of stories in that regard. How is that sector also under the agri ministry or the agri sector faring, the livestock and then the fisheries industry? Well,
so long as we're eating, we can say the other fine. But based on what is happening, based on the interactions, once again, you could tell that there are some challenges when it comes to especially livestock and the subsectors of the fisheries industry. Recently, we engaged the fisheries minister, and she tells us the fact that the yields that are coming in are just below the belt. They're just below numbers. We're talking about Ghana, having issues related to the number of fish stock that they often catch as compared to previous years. We're talking of issues of, lighting and all those kinds of things. We're talking of the lack of investment. So all these things, often push governments to push in so much funding. But as Phil said, for how long? How long are they going to be injecting these kinds of funds into these industries in that regard?
How about the issue of technology? Have we taken advantage of technology when it comes to agriculture in Ghana? We are still doing the small farmer. Tomorrow we'll be seeing farmers there, and you see the items that will be given. It's a different story altogether. Well, but are we taking advantage of technology when it comes to farming in Ghana? Do you get that sense? The stories you do you see people investing heavily in technology to be able to better the lot of the sector?
Well, on a lighter note, if you're having a farmer's day, having a whole government give a farmer cutlasses and bulletin boots. You
should
just, alcoholic drinks. You just see. But when it comes to mechanized farming, it's not that, we are not there yet as compared to even the United States, Canada, the UK, even when they are even having machines do the job, farmers just sit back and cross their arms to what things go on. So mechanized farming, yes, we keep preaching about the whole thing of mechanized farming, but we are just not there.
Philip, you spoke about funding, but what is the way forward? How can we get the banks to actually fund agriculture in this country? Because without funding, we'll be doing less, we'll be contributing less. The statistics are not favorable at all.
Okay, so one will be to develop the long-term sources of funding in the country, life insurance, pensions. We need to look into it, and just not taking it for taking its sake, but make sure that it's structured in a way that when it's taken and is given to the agricultural sector, it can pay for itself.
Right.
Another thing will also be to train those who are in the banks and are lending. You understand? When we go and we apply for loans, the bankers are used to the services sector. It's a quick thing. They are used to it. They know that, okay, somebody imports this, in a few months, he gives the money back to them. If the bankers are trained properly to assess the agricultural sector, then we're going to see positive benefits. The last one we'll touch on is the Ghana incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending. It's called GESAL. It was mentioned in the 2017 budget, and in the 2019 budget, government says they're going to operationalize it by giving them $400 million and then $40 million from the African Development Bank. So this is supposed to de-risk lending when it comes to the commercial banks. So it's going to give commercial banks some soft footing to give money to the agricultural sector.
Okay.
And even to add to what Phil said, the recently launched Ghana Commodity Exchange thing that's going to be having most of these, farmers come to terms with, the buyers from the banks, investors, whatnot. So there could be some good news there.
Some interventions.
But the issues is whether or not it's going to reap the benefits.
All right, quickly before we go, let's talk about that debate about whether or not to celebrate or not to celebrate the Farmers' Day. It's generating a lot of public debates out there. Philip, let me start with you. Okay. Do you think it's important for us to celebrate the Farmers' Day and also to have a holiday?
I think from a historical point of view, agriculture has been part and parcel of our growth. And it's important that we recognize this contribution is made to the development of Ghana. But we are supposed to move from agriculture to industry and to services. So for how long are we going to be paying attention to this agricultural sector? One day, maybe we can have a holiday for the industrial sector. One day, holiday for the sector.
Okay, quickly, Charles, before we go, 30 seconds.
Based on what Gao is telling us, no, there's no need for us to have that celebration. Farmers are always crying out. Farmers are always suffering. And we keep having these, these awards given to selected people time and time again, but we just don't see their welfare being improved. So for me, and from what Gao is telling us, the importance is just not there.
All right, unfortunately, we have to end it here tonight on Business Live. It's been an insightful discussion on the Farmers' Day. Tomorrow is Farmers' Day, so have a great Farmers' Day. Happy holidays. Thanks so much for watching Business Live. My name is Sandra and I was doing this with Darakwa. Have a great evening.